Good morning, beautiful people of planet Earth and all other sentient beings and interdimensional entities across this wide cosmos. It's in the Gregorian calendar, the 7th of December 2025, Sunday, and the time is 11:01 a.m. 111. Make a wish to the angels. I know what my wish is. It's the same wish I've been wishing on for 60 years. Safety, true love, enough prosperity to live in comfort and ease. Loyalty, fidelity, a life partner who adores and values and cherishes and respects me, and to be surrounded by a tribe and or community of people who are like-minded and also adore, cherish and respect me and include me and enjoy my company and treat me with kindness and honour and decency and integrity. Why do I have that wish? Because it's been a long time manifestation, people of Earth. However, I was treated beautifully on Saturday night, and I was also treated beautifully when I went out, was it Monday last week? I can't remember what day it was. I think it was a Monday. So, I do have that manifestation, that psychedelic swirling dream has, to all intents and purposes come true. I do have beautiful souls that light up when they see me and play their music to me and dance alongside me and serve me drinks at the bar and, watch over me in a kind and protective and sweet. So, excuse me, I just had sesame snaps and they're sticking in my throat. So anyway, to you, my true beloved ones who are so sweet and kind and soul nourishing, blessed be to you all. And it's a beautiful day in the garden again this morning. I've only just, not long ago, put the little birdies out. I've been up since 7:30. I woke up by the gods. Waking up earlier and earlier. It's not like me. It's not my normal, but I guess it's becoming my normal. Thanks, CPAP. Thanks, Brian. You're killing me. Getting me up too early in the morning. Functioning and at times over-functioning to the point of, nervous system breakdown and exhaustion is not necessarily a good thing. So I'm kind of learning to balance out my energies and go with the flow as I slide away in the slipstream of life. And the year's nearly over, but I feel kind of a strange confidence. I don't know where that idea comes from because it's been a tough year this year for me emotionally, but I feel a strange confidence that I'll be pushing forwards in some way, finding my little niche and perhaps forging ahead with my silversmithing if I can afford more silver, perhaps even gold and some nice gems. I'd like to try get back into sand casting and try and make some nice gold rings with some gemstones would be lovely, like precious stones, just whatever I can afford, at that point in time in the space-time continuum. It's a bit ambitious since I can barely afford to survive, but you never know what's coming in the future. I don't know why my tea's cold, I only just made it. I have to go back and heat it up, it's going to grind my gears. While I'm out there heating up my tea, enjoy the view of the birdie boys. I don't know if you can see them. Just going to heat my tea up. Right, I don't know if you got to see the birdies after all that. Here's Bo, looking a bit pensive, and here's Kermie, also looking like he's about to create anarchy and chaos. He's actually quite contented though. Right, let's sit us up a bit. That's better, no, worse. Alright. Sorry about that, but it grinds my gears cold tea. I can't abide it. I'm an all or nothing sort of woman. Hot tea or iced tea, but nothing in between. No lukewarm, tepid tea for me. It's like my love life, how either runs very, very hot, or it's in Antarctica, frozen in a wasteland somewhere far, far away, unattainable and unreachable, and left to rot, because fuck it, life's too short to waste time on idiots, men who can't communicate or be authentic or loving or generous or kind, shove other women in my face. Fuck off. Am I right, people of Earth? I did a little life review, one of my videos. It was can't remember what date it was, 24th of February 2024, I think. Very interesting. Sometimes I'm glad I leave these little visual diaries or memoirs out in the ether, because when I get drawn to go back to them for whatever reason, often spirit-led, it's very illuminating. Look what the frangipani tree gifted us today. Fresh from sacred space. This one's got no little blemishes on it at all. A perfect bloom. Right. It's very hot today. It's hot out in the garden. I was hoping that we'd get some lovely breezes, but alas, no. Well, always take the weather with you, people of Earth. Hmm. So we'll begin with chapter 3, Looking Glass Insects. Of course, the first thing to do was to make a grand survey of the country she was going to travel through. It's something very like learning geography, thought Alice. Oh my goodness, what a mess I get myself into. Are you a happy bird, Kermie? He says, well, I'm reasonably satisfied with life, Mummy. I've chucked the watermelon and the corn and the cucumber out of the bowl onto the bottom of my cage, and I've created what chaos I can, and now I'm just schmoozing. Schmoozing isn't the right word though. Schmoozing means going around talking to people. So what is he actually doing? He's not snoozing because he's awake. Just chilling out and hanging out. Little Bo's having a drink of water. Good boy, Bo. It's hot, isn't it? It's a hot day. By all the gods. Right, anyway. It's something very like learning geography, thought Alice, as she stood on tiptoe in hopes of being able to see a little further. Principal rivers, there are none. Principal mountains, I'm on the only one, but I don't think it's got any name. Principal towns, bloody ants are crawling over my feet and biting me, I hate that. Principal towns, why, what are those creatures making honey down there? They can't be bees. Nobody ever saw bees a mile off, you know. And for some time she stood silent, watching one of them that was bustling about among the flowers, poking its proboscis into them, just as if it was a regular bee, thought Alice. However, this was anything but a regular bee. In fact, it was an elephant. As Alice soon found out, though the idea quite took her breath away at first. Indeed. Elephants poking their trunks into flowers. Must be very big flowers, or it's a very minuscule elephant. And what enormous flowers they must be, was her next idea. Something like cottages with the roofs taken off and stalks put onto them. And what quantities of honey they must make. Mr. Crow's taken a piece of watermelon I threw out for them, and he's buried it in the compost in my guttering for later. Strange little bird. I think I'll go down, and no, I won't go just yet, she went on, checking herself just as she was beginning to run down the hill and trying to find some excuse for turning shy so suddenly. It will never do to go down among them without a good long branch to brush them away. And what fun it'll be when they ask me how I liked my walk. I shall say, oh, I liked it well enough. Here came the favourite little toss of the head. Only it was so dusty and hot, and the elephants did tease so. There you go, people of Earth. I think I'll go down the other way, she said after a pause, and perhaps I may visit the elephants later on. Besides, I do so want to get into the third square. So with this excuse, she ran down the hill and jumped over the first of the 6 little brooks. Then we have ellipses to suggest a change of scene, people. Mama too could do with a change of scene. Oh, it was so lovely when I went to Kuchi Mudlow on Monday, this Monday. So it must have been the previous Monday when I was at the, or was it the Saturday? Can't bloody remember. Isn't that weird? When I was at the, yes, I think it was the Saturday. It was the Saturday, and then the Monday I went to Kuchi Mudlow. Yes, I'd had a very busy week last week. Very, very busy. Right. Tickets, please, said the guard, putting his head in at the window. In a moment, everybody was holding out a ticket. They were about the same size as the people and quite seemed to fill the carriage. Now then, show your ticket, child, the guard went on, looking angrily at Alice, and a great many voices all said together, like the chorus of a song, thought Alice. Don't keep him waiting, child. Why, his time is worth £1,000 a minute. Imagine that. £1,000 a minute. I'm afraid I haven't got one, Alice said in a frightened tone. There wasn't a ticket office where I came from. And again the chorus of voices went on. There wasn't room for one where she came from. The land there is worth £1,000 an inch. Don't make excuses, said the guard. You should have bought one from the engine driver. And once more the chorus of voices went on with, the man that drives the engine, why the smoke alone is worth £1,000 a puff. I feel like singing Puff the Magic Dragon now. That's worth £1,000 a puff, baby girls and baby boys. Lives by the sea in a land called Hollilee. Oh well. One day, people of Earth. One fucking day. Alice thought to herself, then there's no use in speaking. The voices didn't join in this time, as she hadn't spoken. But to her great surprise, they all thought in chorus. I hope you understand what thinking in chorus means, for I must confess that I don't. I do. The collective consciousness, the ripple in the space-time continuum that sets off even little seismic Geiger counters, like when horrendous events that affect the globe like 9/11 happened. It actually tips off the energy, the collective grief triggered the I don't know what you call it. the sensors. So it must also work that way when there is a global exhilaration and excitement of joy and delight. Must also register. As what goes down must also go back up again. Post-COVIDian epoch with all that ghastly, draconian, awful misery, there must also swing back to joy and delight again, sweetness, and people having the courage to hold their own fucking line and say no to even further draconian societal deterioration and domination and desecration and fascism and destruction of our human body, minds and spirits. Say no, people. Say no even when you might want to say yes. Have the common sense to say, fuck no. The pressure upon you to say yes to things that aren't good for you is obscene. I almost yielded to. I almost did. There was one 10-minute span there. I don't know whether they put some kind of thing out in the ether, but I almost caved. I had to pull myself back and say, this is not your normal thinking processes. You're not yourself, Tanya. Put myself to bed, weathered that storm. Electromagnetic storms, interferences in our weather and atmosphere, wickedness. Well, little birdie. Well, little Kermie. I'm thinking that maybe I should keep them together in the cage one day when they're outside, because they like being in each other's company in the same cage inside now. When I let them free range, Kermie always goes into little Bo's cage, which is big enough for the two of them actually. They don't fight much anymore. He had a little fight last night though. I picked on him a bit, and just every now and then he arcs up, because he can. And the little one holds his own quite majestically, because he can. Never underestimate the little ones, people of Earth. Even the smallest person can change the course of the world. J.R.R. Tolkien. He's right about that too. If enough of the little ones stuck together, spoke out, stood in perfect alignment, backed each other, it would be a far, far better world. It would be amazing. Right, where was I? Better say nothing at all. A language is worth £1,000 a word. I shall dream about £1,000 tonight. I know I shall, thought Alice. All this time, the guard was looking at her, first through a telescope, then through a microscope, and then through an opera glass. At last he said, "You're travelling the wrong way," and shut up the window and went away. "So young a child," said the gentleman sitting opposite to her. He was dressed in white paper. "Ought to know which way she's going, even if she doesn't know her own name." A goat that was sitting next to the gentleman in white shut his eyes and said in a loud voice, "She ought to know her way to the ticket office, even if she doesn't know her alphabet." There was a beetle sitting next to the goat, 'Twas a very queer carriage full of passengers altogether, and as the rule seemed to be that they should all speak in turn, he went on with, "She'll have to go back from here as luggage." Alice couldn't see who was sitting beyond the beetle, but a hoarse voice spoke next. "Change engines," it said, and there it choked and was obliged to leave off. "It sounds like a horse," Alice thought to herself, and an extremely small voice close to her ear said, "You might make a joke on that, something about horse and horse, spelt H-O-A-R-S-E, and your voice goes all hoarse, Then a very gentle voice in the distance said, "She must be labelled Lass with Care, And after that, other voices went on. "What a number of people there are in the carriage," thought Alice, saying, "She must go by post, as she's got her head on her. She must be sent as a message by the telegraph. She must draw the train herself the rest of the way," and so on. But the gentleman, dressed in white paper, leaned forward and whispered in her ear, "Never mind what all say, my dear, but take a return ticket every time the train stops." "Indeed I shan't," Alice said rather impatiently. I don't belong to this railroad journey at all. I was in a wood just now, and I wish I could get back there." "You might make a joke on that," said the little voice close to her ear. "Something about you would if you could, "Don't tease so," said Alice, looking about in vain to see where the voice came from. "If you're so anxious to have a joke made, why don't you make it yourself?" The little voice sighed deeply. It was very unhappy, evidently, and Alice would have said something pitying to comfort it, if it would only sigh like other people, she thought. But this was such a wonderfully small sigh that she wouldn't have heard it at all if it hadn't come quite close to her ear. Going to poke that in my ear. Yes, that looks lovely, doesn't it? Very feminine. 2 flowers behind each ear. One real, one silk. Well, silk is kind of real too, but over. You know what I mean. Every time I used to say, my father used to correct me by saying, "No, I don't know." I wasn't allowed to either. I've slipped into some very bad speech habits as I've gotten old. Well, I don't care. I'm an old woman now. I can do what I want, whatever. Right. "Don't tease so," said Alice, looking about in vain. Now we've read that part. Such a wonderfully small sigh that she wouldn't have heard it at all if it hadn't come, yes, quite close to her ear. The consequence of this was that it tickled her ear very much, and quite took off her thoughts from the unhappiness of the poor little creature. "I know you are a friend," the little voice went on, "a dear friend and an old friend, and you won't hurt me, although I am An insect? What kind of insect? Alice inquired, a little anxiously. What she really wanted to know was whether it would sting or not, but she thought this wouldn't be quite a civil question to ask. What, then, you don't? The little voice began. When it was drowned by a shrill scream from the engine, and everybody jumped up in alarm. Alice among the rest. The horse, who put his head out of the window, quietly drew it in and said, "It's only a brook we have to jump over." Everybody seemed satisfied with this, although Alice felt a little nervous at the idea of trains jumping at all. Yes, that would make me a bit nervous too, I must admit. However, it'll take us into the fourth square. That's some comfort, she said to herself. In another moment she felt the carriage rise straight up into the air, and in her fright she caught at the thing nearest to her hand, which happened to be the goat's beard. My mother, before she went to America in 1979, quite some years before, about 6 years or so, told me she'd had a vision, a type dream, like a precognitive. She knew it was precognitive because it felt so real, like she was actually standing there. And of course, in the dream, she didn't actually know that it was New York, but she dreamt of trains coming out of the subway and actually climbing up just like that out of the subway. They all looked like they were rising up out from underground. And then in 1979, when she went for the trip across the United States with Case, I stayed back in New Zealand because I was 14 and I worried about my schooling. Which rightly or wrongly was probably the right thing to do, really, because I wasn't safe with either of them. So can you imagine going across America with them? What a nightmare that would have been. But anyway, she when she came back from America, she said to me, "I had that dream some years ago of trains coming out of the ground and rising up in the air." I said, "Yes." She said, "When I stood in New York, that's exactly what it looked like." She said, "I stood there," she said, "I put my hand to my mouth." She said, in kind of surprise and shock, because I knew I'd seen that before and had dreamed it. My mother could be very psychic. She could also be very psycho, so there is that. Yin and yang, swings and roundabouts, up and down, round and round, circling the drain, living our best lives in sacred space, dreaming of the sea. And loving my own self and my own survival, and loving my birds, and loving my true friends and out there in the world. Some of them I danced with on, Friday night, and it was wonderful, and enjoying every moment. But I did miss out on going to America, which in a way, hindsight 2020 here in 2025 was a bit of a shame, but I really would not have been safe with them, quite frankly. They really were idiots in many, many ways, especially when it came to protecting their own daughters, children. Although I wasn't a child at the time, I was a teenager, but not a vast amount of difference, really. 14 years old, you're still a child in many ways. Hell, at 60 and a half, I'm still a child in many ways. People are there, still playing catch up. Well, when I grow up, I always joke with my cleaning lady, Rati, I would say, when I grow up, I'm going to have a house by the sea. It's going to be a much bigger house. And then I look at her and I go, it's a nice dream, but it'll be a lot more fucking cleaning involved. And she just nods and smiles. I've got it pretty good here, actually. A small enough house that it doesn't kill me to clean it. Well, it gets cleaned for me once a week, the bathroom and the floors. I've still got to do the dusting though. Gotta be, I've got to be in a bit of a mood to do that. And I've got the lovely garden here. So really I've got nothing to complain about. I have a beautiful life and I'm very grateful. But it was decades of the most evil and ignominious people and events, and so I cherish it even more because I know the immense price that was paid, and blood, sweat, tears and cumulative trauma. Here's BB. What you doing, BB? I've got some mung beans out there and some watermelon. You might like that. Mr. Crow's taken his tribute and buried it in the guttering. I have to get up there and clean that bit of guttering too. It's hard for me being up on the ladder now. I actually get dizzy and just about fucking fall off. It's not that high though, I can do it. Right, carrying on with Alice in Wonderland. But the beard that she'd grabbed onto, the goat's beard, seemed to melt away as, that should say, she touched it. And she found herself sitting quietly under a tree, while the gnat, for that was the insect she had been talking to, was balancing itself on a twig just over her head and fanning her with its wings. It certainly was a very large gnat, about the size of a chicken, Alice thought. Still, she couldn't feel nervous with it after they had been talking together so long. Then you don't like all insects? The gnat went on, as quietly as if nothing had happened. I like them when they can talk, Alice said. None of them ever talk where I come from. You see, she's very silly, isn't she? They're all talking to us all the time. I was being buzzed by some kind of fruit fly or bee again when I sat down before I began filming. He buzzed me for ages, all around my face, all around my head, talking to me in his own little insectoid language. And of course I didn't understand, his energy signature or the sounds he was making, but it was almost like, good morning, lovely to see you, hope you're having a lovely day, I'll be off. And after he buzzed around me, he buzzed off and he hasn't bothered me again. It's starting to be a bit of a morning ritual now. It's 2 mornings in a row he's done that. Is it really a bug or is it a fairy? One can't quite tell, can one? Anyway, must live 1 foot planted on the ground in 3D reality in the real world, people of Earth. But at Titania's realm, magic happens. Anything can happen at any time. It's quite wonderful when you think about it. But concerning and frightening to the uninitiated though. If you're not, you're not used to looking at the world from both spectrums of reality. It can be a bit confronting, I must admit. Right, here we go. What sort of insects do you rejoice in? Where you come from? The gnat inquired. Oh, now I've got some weird little bug climbing over my book. I don't rejoice in insects at all, Alice explained, because I'm rather afraid of them, at least the large kinds. But I can tell you the names of some of them. Of course they answer to their names, the gnat remarked carelessly. I never knew them do it. What's the use of their having names, the gnat said, if they don't answer to them? No use to them, said Alice, but it's useful to the people that name them, I suppose. If not, why do things have names at all? I can't say, the gnat replied. Further on in the wood down there, they've got no names. However, go on with your list of insects. You're wasting time. Well, there's the horsefly that are forever biting me, people of Earth. She thought I was being bitten by one just then. But it's... sorry. Well, there's the horsefly, Alice began, counting off the names on her fingers. All right, said the gnat. Halfway up that bush, you'll see a rocking horsefly if you look. It's made entirely of wood and gets about by swinging itself from branch to branch. What does it live on? Alice asked with great curiosity. Sap and sawdust, said the gnat. Go on with the list. Alice looked at the rocking horsefly with great interest and made up her mind that it must have just been repainted. It's actually worded, it must have been just repainted. It looked so bright and sticky. And then she went on. And there's the dragonfly. Look on the branch above your head, said the gnat, and there you'll find a snapdragonfly. Its body is made of plum pudding, its wings of holly leaves, and its head is a raisin burning in brandy. And what does it live on? Alice asked as before. Frumenty and mince pie, the gnat replied, and it makes its nest in a Christmas box. That wasn't very friendly, BB, chasing Mr. Crow. It's a bit rude. Getting very hot. I'm going to have to get my fan. By the goddess. I'm in the shade. Oh, just as I said that, a breeze blew through. Thank you, sacred space. I need that. Right. And then there's the butterfly, Alice went on, after she had taken a good look at the insect with its head on fire and had thought to herself, I wonder if that's the reason insects are so fond of flying into candles, because they want to turn into snap-dragonflies? Crawling at your feet, said the gnat. Alice drew her feet back in some alarm. You may observe a bread and butter fly. Oh, my favourite pudding, bread and butter. Its wings are thin slices of bread and butter. Its body is a crust, and its head is a lump of sugar. Ha! Mr. Crow took a big hunk of watermelon, flew away from the turkey. He's not burying that piece. He's eating it. Good bird. Right. And what does it live on? A weak tea, which is finished, with cream in it. A new difficulty came into Alice's head. Supposing it couldn't find any, she suggested. Then it would die, of course. But that must happen very often, Alice remarked thoughtfully. It always happens, said the gnat. After this, Alice was silent for a minute or two, pondering. The gnat amused itself meanwhile by humming round and round her head. At last it settled again and remarked, I suppose you don't want to lose your name? No, indeed, Alice said, a little anxiously. And yet I don't know, the gnat went on in a careless tone. I only think how convenient it would be if you could manage to go home without it. For instance, if the governess wanted to call you to your lessons, she would call out, Come here! And there she would have to leave off, because there wouldn't be any name for her to call. And of course, you wouldn't have to go, you know. That would never do, I'm sure, said Alice. My little Charlie. The governess would never think of excusing me lessons for that. If she couldn't remember my name, she'd call me Miss, as the servants do. Well, if she said Miss and didn't say anything more, the gnat remarked, of course you'd miss your lessons. That's a joke. I wish you had made it. Why do you wish I had made it? Alice asked. It's a very bad one. But the gnat only sighed deeply, while 2 large tears came rolling down its cheeks. You shouldn't make jokes, Alice said. Here he comes again, my little... What is that creature actually? It's very busy, whatever it is. Then came another of those melancholy little sighs, and this time the poor gnat really seemed to have sighed itself away, for when Alice looked up, there was nothing whatever to be seen on the twig, and as she was getting quite chilly with sitting still so long, she got up and walked on. She very soon came to an open field with a wood on the other side of it. It looked much darker than the last wood, and Alice felt a little timid about going into it. However, on second thoughts, she made up her mind to go on, for I certainly won't go back, she thought to herself, and this was the only way to the 8 Square. This must be the wood, she said thoughtfully to herself, where things have no names. I wonder what will become of my name when I go in. I shouldn't like to lose it at all, because he's back again. He's obsessed. Haven't even got any perfume on, so I don't know what the deal is. Right, where was I? I just go very quiet and sit still because I don't like to freak them out and get stung, you understand. I very often don't usually get stung, but why take the chance, you know? It's best to sit quietly and let it heat seek and scent me and go on its way. Must be curious, it's the 3rd time today it's buzzed me. Right. Where were we? I shouldn't like to lose it at all, her name, because they'd have to give me another, and it would be almost certain to be an ugly one. What makes her think that? Might give her a better name than Alice. Who the fuck is Alice anyway? Just a little girl, getting her way through like everyone else on the planet. By the gods. But then the fun would be trying to find the creature that had gotten my old name. That's just like the advertisements, you know, when people lose dogs. Answers to the name of Dash had on a brass collar. Why would you put a brass collar on a dog? Sounds most uncomfortable. But anyway, just fancy calling everything you met Alice till one of them answered. Only they wouldn't answer at all if they were wise. She was rambling on this way when she reached the wood, and it looked very cool and shady. Well, at any rate, it's a great comfort, she said, as she stepped under the trees. After being so hot to get into what? She went on, rather surprised at not being able to think of the word. I mean to get under this, you know, putting her hand on the trunk of the tree. What does it call itself, I wonder? I do believe it's got no name. Why, to be sure it hasn't. Sounds like your local dementia ward, doesn't it? Dear goddess. That was a most chilling experience visiting my mother there for the last 18 months of her life. A fucking ghastly, zombie shuffling shit show, and should it ever happen to me, I will unalive myself. I'm quite serious. I hope I have enough cognition to know it's happening to me so I can do it without descending to that awful, awful fate. She stood silent for a minute, thinking. Then she suddenly began again. Then it really has happened after all. And now, who am I? I will remember if I can. I'm determined to do it. But being determined didn't help her much, and all she could say after a great deal of puzzling was, L. I know it begins with L. Just then a fawn came wandering by. It looked at Alice with its large, gentle eyes. but didn't seem at all frightened. Here then, Alice said, as she held out her hand and tried to stroke it, but it only started back a little and stood looking at her again. What do you call yourself? The fawn said at last. Such a soft, sweet voice it had. I wish I knew, thought poor Alice. She answered rather sadly, Nothing just now. Think again, it said. That won't do. Alice thought, but nothing came of it. Please, would you tell me what you call yourself? She said timidly. I think that might help a little. I'll tell you if you'll come a little further on, the fawn said. I can't remember here. So they walked on together through the wood, Alice with her arms clasped lovingly around the soft neck of the fawn, till they came out into another open field. And here the fawn gave a sudden bound in the air and shook itself free from Alice's arm. I'm a fawn, it cried out in a voice of delight. And dear me, you're a human child. A sudden look of alarm came into its beautiful eyes, and in a moment it had darted away at full speed. Alice stood looking after it, almost ready to cry with vexation at having lost her dear little fellow traveller so suddenly. However, I know my name now, she said. That's some comfort. Alice, Alice, I won't forget it again. And now, which of these finger posts ought I to follow, I wonder? It was not a very difficult question to answer, as there was only one road through the wood, and the two finger posts both pointed along it. I'll settle it, Alice said to herself, when the road divides and they point different ways. I'll just show you. He's eating, but it's the cutest thing. Head down, ass up in his bowl of food. And he's chucked one of his crunching toy things to crunch up in the bath water that he never bathes in. And this one, what's he doing? Preening. What you doing, little boy? He's going to have a drink now. I bet you anything. No? I thought you were going to have a drink. You tricked me. You're a very tricky birdie. A very tricky birdie. Are you going to play with your other toy? Are you going to play with a toy? Come on. Hurry up. People are watching. He says, I don't perform for the paparazzi. He really doesn't perform. Apparently Mama performs occasionally though. Well, show business runs in the family, darlings. Narcissists, psychopaths, extroverts, performers, screamers, screaming mimes, expansive personalities, dancers. My sister at one time, my half-sister, played the piano accordion but threw it down in disgust. Did her teaching certificate in dance, therefore I was not put in any dance classes at all, or offered music lessons. I got none of those privileged privileged educational pursuits, nothing. I did get a horse, but that was bought by my pedophile godfather when I was 14. That was the only thing they gave me, really. That was a lovely leisure style kind of hobby to have, having a horse to look after, or a pony really. And my great, was it my great or my great-great? I think my great-grandfather spoke with an Irish brogue, which is kind of weird since he was born in New Zealand, and it was his father that came out from Ireland, and had blazing red hair and played the tin whistle and danced the Irish jig, and was actually performed as an Irish dancer back in the day. I guess they didn't have a lot going on back in the 1800s, did they? Life was a bit boring, so anyone with any little bit of show business nous became very popular indeed. And I think he used to put on little plays as well, which is where my elder daughter gets her love of acting probably from. It's in the genes. You just got to wait for which gene will light up. I just discovered I'd left a makeup brush out all day. I forgot it, must have fallen down. Right, we'll hold on to that. Right, so where were we? There's no business like show business. There certainly isn't. But we need to stay grounded and stay real and not subscribe to the superficiality and the narcopathy that sometimes goes with all that attention-seeking people of Earth. It's a great pity when that happens. Right, now where were we? So the finger posts were pointing along the road, and she said, I'll settle it when the road divides and they point different ways. How do we get onto show business from that? Oh, little bow avoiding the parrot ratsy. That's right. Sometimes, I've got to reel myself back in. My brain can go on all sorts of little lateral highways and byways. Now he's having a little sleep, closing his eyes and peering at me and closing his eyes again. Are you pretending to sleep, little boy? Are you a snoozy birdie? He says, shut up, Mama T, so I can dream the great dreams of cockatiels everywhere. Wonder what they dream about. But this did not seem likely to happen. She went on and on a long way, but wherever the road divided, there was sure to be two finger posts pointing the same way, and one marked to Tweedledum's house, and the other to the house of Tweedledee. I do believe, said Alice at last, that they live in the same house. I wonder I never thought of that before. But I can't stay there long. I'll just call and say, how do you do? And ask them the way out of the wood. If I could only get to the 8th square before it gets dark. So she wandered on, talking to herself as she went, till, on turning a sharp corner, she came upon two fat little men, so suddenly that she could not help starting back, but in another moment she recovered herself, feeling sure that they must be. Chapter 5, Tweedledum and Tweedledee, which I shall, I think, for because I'm quite tired, people of Earth. I shall continue tomorrow. So, wherever you are on planet Earth, I feel like I'm being watched. Feeling presences all around me, but anyway, must be in my imagination. Wherever you are on planet Earth or in the space-time continuum, have a beautiful day, afternoon, morning, night, wherever you receive this missive here from Brisbane, Australia, whatever time zone you are. And I hope you're happy, and if you're not happy, find something that will spark joy and make you happy, with harm to none and competition with none. So it is done. Live your best lives. Be kind to each other. Activate your innate magic via your creativity. And love is the law, love under will, which I know is a Thelema principle. Aleister Crowley did call himself the beast, and it's got dark overtones, but I do like that. Love is the only law of the multiverse. Sometimes it flows to you beautifully, and sometimes it's torn away by knaves. So love while the love is running hot and heartfelt and generous and sanctified, and release when it stops being all of those things and turns rancid, and let it flow to the one who really, really, really loves you and means it. Bye for now. Blessed be from Titania's realm, sacred space.